I stepped into the old bookstore, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and polished wood. Dust motes danced in the slanting sunlight, catching my eye like forgotten secrets. There she was, across the crowd. Evelyn, shelving books with that steady grace I remembered too well. My heart thudded against my ribs. Fame had carried me far, but it was built on silence, on burying us deep. One whisper from her could unravel everything. The awards, the interviews, the life I'd crafted without a trace of who I really was. Our eyes met. The room narrowed. I moved toward her, pulled by the gravity of what we'd hidden. Behind the tall shelves, away from prying eyes, I leaned close. "Evelyn," I whispered, my voice catching. "I need you to forget we ever happened." The drive back to Willow Creek felt like pulling against a current. I'd left this town 20 years ago, tires screeching on gravel roads that led to nowhere but escape. Now, the highway unspooled into quiet lanes lined with sagging fences and fields heavy with summer heat. My hands gripped the wheel tighter than necessary, the leather warm under my palms. Fame's isolation pressed in. Endless hotel rooms, faces blurring in crowds, but no one who knew the girl I'd been. Here, the silence between farms echoed like judgment. I wasn't ready for the stares, the questions that might crack my polished shell. The bookstore hummed with locals, a buzz of voices rising like bees around the signing table. I'd arrived early, makeup flawless, smile practiced from 100 events. But under their gazes, curious, knowing, I felt exposed. Mrs. Harlan from the diner nodded, her eyes lingering too long, as if she sensed the fracture beneath my success. I signed copies of my latest novel, the one that painted me as the straight-laced literary darling, words flowing from a pen that never told our truth. Each inscription felt like a lie stacking higher. The air grew stuffy, the scent of fresh ink mixing with old books, pulling at threads of memory I thought I'd severed. Across the room, Evelyn moved through her routine, fingers trailing spines as she shelved returns. She'd always been the steady one, her life rooted here in the library's quiet corners. I watched her from the table, the way her dark hair fell loose today, brushing her shoulders like it had back then. She paused at a high shelf, stretching just enough to show the curve of her arm, and something in my chest tightened. Years of her waiting, I knew. Building days around faded letters, the ache of what I'd left. Her world stayed small, authentic, while mine demanded erasure. When the line thinned, I slipped away, heart pounding like gravel under boots. She turned as I approached, her brown eyes widening just a fraction. "Lila," she said, voice even, but her hand stilled on the book. Awkwardness hung between us, thick as the dust settling on forgotten volumes. "It's been a while." I nodded, throat dry. The undercurrent surged, our secret bubbling up in the space where words failed. Teen summers in the woods behind her house, hands brushing in the dark, first kisses tasting of river silt and promise. I glanced around, then stepped closer, my breath shallow. "Evelyn, please. You can't say anything. Not to anyone." The plea escaped in a whisper, urgent against the murmur of the crowd. Her response came guarded, arms crossing like a shield. "Why now? After all this time?" Her voice held no warmth, just the quiet steel I'd always admired. It stung, that distance, but it pulled me deeper. Memories flooded then, unbidden. The touch of her hand on mine under the library table, calluses from bookbinding rough against my skin. Shared whispers in the stacks after hours, her breath warm on my neck, bodies pressed close in the shadows. The world outside faded, but here it crashed back. My fame, my career, teetered on this edge. One slip and the headlines would devour us both. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerability flickering beneath her resolve. I felt it too, the pull of what we'd lost, hearts thudding in sync despite the years. She set the book down, the soft thud echoing in my ears. "We need to talk. Properly." Her nod toward the back pulled me along, away from the signing's glare. The secluded corner of the library waited, shelves towering like silent guardians, drawing us into deeper confrontation. We slipped into the corner, the air cooler here, heavy with the must of untouched volumes. Evelyn leaned against a shelf, her arms still crossed, fingers digging into her elbows. I could see the faint lines around her eyes, etched by years I hadn't shared. My escape from Willow Creek replayed in my mind like a worn reel. 20 years ago, I'd packed a single bag, driven out under cover of night, the town's lights fading in the rearview. The queer part of me, the part that bloomed with her, felt like a liability then. Cities swallowed secrets easier, and success demanded reinvention. I buried it all. The soft curve of her shoulder under my palm, the way our laughter echoed in empty barns. For book deals, tours, acclaim, I became the version they wanted, straight-edged, uncomplicated. But fame's shine hid the hollow ache. Every interview a performance, every award a reminder of what I'd silenced. Evelyn's gaze held mine, steady but shadowed. She'd stayed, I knew, weaving her days around the library's rhythm, sorting returns at dawn, recommending stories to kids who didn't yet know their own. Her life built on our memory, like roots twisting through soil. Letters I'd stopped sending, promises that turned to dust. She must have waited those first years, checking the mailbox, her heart thudding against the quiet. Now, her routine masked the longing, a quiet armor against the abandonment. "You left without a word," she said, voice low, the words landing like gravel underfoot. "I rebuilt here. Books don't leave." I swallowed, the silence between us thick, my heart thudding in rhythm with the distant hum of the signing. Our history spilled out then, unbidden, in fragments. Those teenage summers, hidden in the thickets by the creek, where sunlight filtered through leaves like golden silt. We'd sneak away after chores, her hand finding mine in the underbrush, rough from garden work. First awakenings there, her lips tentative on mine, tasting of wild mint and river damp. Bodies pressing close in the heat, breaths mingling as we discovered what the world denied. Whispers of forever, carved into bark, our secret world away from prying eyes. It felt safe then, authentic, before ambition pulled me under. But my career, God, the price. Secrecy was the foundation, fame's brittle glass. One rumor, one photo from those days, and the endorsements vanished, the fans turned. I'd seen it happen to others, whispers derailing lives. Authenticity, a luxury for those without spotlights. "Evelyn, you don't understand," I pressed, voice cracking. "This book signing, the tour, it's all teetering. If they knew about us..." The conflict seated deep, her presence a mirror to my erasure. I needed her silence, but it cost her truth. Our shared past reduced to a plea for forgetting. She reached for a book on the shelf, an old volume of poetry, its pages faded yellow like the letters we'd exchanged. The paper crinkled under her thumb, evoking those notes. Ink-smudged confessions slipped into lockers, hearts thudding in the hush of after-hours stacks. The scent rose, dry and intimate, pulling me back. My pulse echoed in the quiet, a steady thud against the cage of my ribs. Vulnerability hung there, raw. Evelyn's quiet strength challenged me, her eyes not yielding. Forgetting isn't that simple, Lila. It shaped me. You can't just ask me to bury it for your spotlight. I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking, warm with unresolved heat. Her breath brushed my skin, faint like dust settling. Mutual, that pull. Her guard cracking just enough to show the hurt, my plea laced with the fear of losing her twice. But insistence built in me, words tumbling faster. "Please, the media's circling already. A reporter from the city paper is here, digging into my roots. If they find out..." External pressures loomed, the crowd's murmur seeping through the shelves, drawing us toward the storm. The murmur grew louder, voices filtering through the stacks like smoke. I straightened, feeling the weight of it all pressed down. "Evelyn, listen. The industry's ruthless. One whisper of my past and it's over." My words came out defensive, edged with the stories I'd carried too long. I told her about the scrutiny, the way agents comb through lives like archaeologists unearthing bones. A colleague once lost a deal, rumors of an old affair, nothing proven, but the publisher backed out. "They want clean narratives," I said, my voice dropping. Straight lines, no tangles. I've built this on careful silences. Lost opportunities? More than I can count. A film adaptation shelved because of a vague interview slip. Fans adore the mystery, but dig too deep and they turn. She didn't move, her eyes narrowing in the dim light. The resistance built in her posture, shoulders squaring against the shelf. And what about me, Lila? The pain of you leaving, did that count in your clean narrative? Her voice cracked just once, raw with the abandonment she'd nursed. Years of empty evenings. I could see it in her face, the way her fingers tightened on the book spine. You ask me to erase us for your truth? No. I demand mine. Truth over your spotlight, over the forgetting you want so badly. The words landed heavy, her pain a demand that pulled at my defenses. She wouldn't bend, not for fame's sake. It stirred something in me, guilt twisting like roots under soil. Memories surged then, pulling us back. That night under the stars, out by the old mill where the river whispered secrets. We'd lain on a blanket, the grass cool and prickly beneath us. Her hand found mine first, fingers interlacing with a firmness that steadied my racing heart. Physical closeness built slow, her body shifting nearer, the warmth of her thigh against mine sending sparks through the chill air. We talked in murmurs, stars pricking the black above like scattered silt. Her lips brushed my ear, breath warm, as she confessed fears she'd never voiced. I turned, our faces inches apart, and kissed her. Soft at first, then deeper, hands exploring the curve of her back, the soft give of her skin under cotton. The bond formed there, unbreakable in that moment, hearts thudding in unison against the night's quiet. It was our world, safe and real, before everything shifted. A voice cut through, sharp and eager. Ms. Harlan? Lila? Can I get a quick photo? A fan, middle-aged with a phone clutched tight, peered around the shelf. The interruption jolted us. I slipped into my public mask, smile snapping on like a light. Of course, I said, voice bright, stepping away from Evelyn. We posed, her arm light on my shoulder, the flash blinding in the dim corner. Love your books, she gushed. So inspiring. I nodded, signing her copy with a flourish, the words automatic. Evelyn watched, her expression unreadable, as I waved the fan off. The mask held, but inside it chafed, polished, distant, hiding the woman who'd just relived that night with her. Guilt flooded me then, mixing with the desire her nearness rekindled. Standing so close, I could feel the heat radiating from her, the faint scent of her skin, lavender and old paper, stirring embers I'd thought cold. Proximity pulled at me, wanting to reach out, to bridge the years with a touch. But guilt clawed deeper, for leaving, for asking her to bury us now. Why did her strength make me ache like this? The internal storm raged, desire flickering against the shame of what my life had cost her. I wanted her silence, but more, I wanted her understanding. Her eyes met mine again, holding the weight of it all, and I felt exposed, raw under that gaze. The space between us felt smaller, charged. Her breath came warm in the close air, brushing my cheek like a forgotten promise. Dust settled slow on the shelves around us, fine particles drifting like unresolved feelings, coating everything in a haze. My pulse quickened, the thud echoing in my ears, her presence a pull I couldn't ignore. The warmth of her nearness escalated it all. Sensory, intimate, the air thick with what we'd lost and what lingered. I stepped back, but not far enough, the tension coiling tighter. The signing wound down as afternoon faded, shadows lengthening across the floor. Walk with me? Evelyn asked, her voice softer now, the resistance easing just a fraction. I nodded, the pull too strong to deny. We stepped out into the evening, the door creaking shut behind us. The town paths unfolded, familiar underfoot, gravel crunching, air cooling with the sun's dip. Memories flooded freely then, washing over us like the creek after rain. Old spots passed, the bench by the library where we'd first held hands, hidden from view. The path to the woods, leaves rustling now as they had then. Each step stirred affections long buried, the night's chill mirroring the tension between us. Cool, insistent, drawing us closer despite the doubts. Her arm brushed mine once, accidental but electric, and I wondered if she felt it too. The walk stretched, words sparse but heavy, pulling us toward whatever came next. The gravel path crunched under our shoes, each step echoing the rhythm of breaths we weren't quite sinking. Willow Creek unfolded around us in the fading light, street lamps flickering on like hesitant stars. We passed the old oak by the park, its branches gnarled and familiar, where we'd carved initials into the bark one reckless afternoon. The wood had healed over the years, but the memory stirred old affections, warm and insistent, pulling at the edges of my resolve. Evelyn walked beside me, her pace measured, the night's chill seeping through my jacket and mirroring the tension coiling between us. It wasn't just cold air. It was the weight of words unsaid, the space where our hands almost touched. I glanced at her profile, the way shadows played across her cheek, and felt the pull deepen, like silt shifting under a slow current. We stopped at the bridge over the creek, the water murmuring below, dark and steady. "I regret it, Evelyn," I said finally, the words tumbling out, honest, raw in the quiet. Leaving like that. No note, no goodbye. I was scared of this town, of us, of what it meant. My voice cracked, the chill biting deeper as I aired the regrets I'd buried under deadlines and spotlights. Every book I write, every speech, it's laced with that ghost. You were my first real thing, and I ran because staying meant facing it all. She turned to me, eyes reflecting the dim light from the bridge rail, testing the forgiveness she might offer. "Regret doesn't fix the hole you left," she replied, her tone even, but edged with hurt. "I forgave you years ago, Lila, for my own sake. But asking me to forget? That's not regret. That's erasure." Her words tested me, probing the sincerity, and I felt the forgiveness waver, fragile as frost on the rail. The path curved toward the town square, leaves skittering across our feet like scattered thoughts. Our hands brushed then, accidental at first, her fingers grazing mine as we navigated a route, and neither pulled away. The contact lingered, subtle, electric, sending warmth up my arm against the night's bite. I let my pinky hook hers, just enough to feel the callus from turning pages, and she didn't resist. Eyes met longer than caution allowed, hers holding mine with a depth that stripped the years away. In that gaze, I saw the girl she'd been, the one who'd taught me tenderness in hidden corners, and the woman, now, steady and unyielding. The intimacy built, quiet, unspoken, her thumb tracing a faint circle on my skin before she let go. My pulse thudded low, the chill forgotten in that brief anchor. We kept walking, the square's fountain gurgling ahead, but my mind raced to the rising stakes. The media spotlight's intensifying, I confessed, voice dropping as if the words might carry on the wind. Next week, a profile in the Times, deep dive into my roots. They'll be here longer, asking questions. If they catch wind of us... Exposure loomed like thunder on the horizon, threatening the career I'd clawed for. Book tours canceled, deals dissolved, the queer truth I'd hidden weaponized against me. Evelyn's steps slowed, her empathy flickering in the set of her jaw. "I get it," she said softly. "Hiding who you are. The weight of eyes waiting for a slip." Shared queer struggles layered between us then, emotional and raw. She'd faced it here, in whispers and sidelong glances, building a life of quiet defiance amid the town's grit. "Small towns chew on differences," she added, her voice laced with the empathy of someone who'd endured. But you chose the bigger stage, Lila. The hiding there, does it ever ease? I shook my head, the layers peeling back. The isolation of fame, the ache of performing straightness, the queer heart beating silent under it all. Her understanding wrapped around me, warm against the chill, validating the hidden life I'd led. The square opened up, benches empty under the lamps, but voices drifted from the diner across the way, locals lingering over coffee. Old Town gossip hinted then, complication weaving in like smoke. Mrs. Harlan emerged, waving from the door, her eyes sharp as she called out, "Lila! Saw you signing earlier. And Evelyn! Haven't seen you two together since high school." Her laugh carried, too knowing, laced with the town's undercurrent. "Brings back memories, doesn't it? Those summers you girls spent thick as thieves." The words hung, innocent on the surface, but probing, hinting at knowledge of our past, the stolen moments, the secrets that had rippled through whispers even then. Evelyn's hand tensed beside mine, the brush of her fingers a silent signal. I forced a smile, waving back. "Just catching up," I replied, voice light, but inside, panic stirred. If Mrs. Harlan remembered more, if the gossip mill turned, the stakes spiked, exposure inching closer. We turned away, the encounter lingering like dust in the air. Evelyn's empathy held, but the complication tightened the tension, her steps quicker now. "They've always talked," she murmured, "but tonight it feels different, with you here." The shared struggles deepened our bond, queer resilience threading through the chill. Her quiet life a testament, my hidden one a caution. Hands brushed again, deliberate this time, eyes locking with a promise neither voiced. The walk circled back toward the library, the building's silhouette rising dark against the sky. Affections stirred stronger, regrets aired but forgiveness still testing, intimacy subtle yet insistent. The night's chill mirrored it all, cool and unrelenting, drawing us inward. The library door loomed, its handle cool under my palm as Evelyn unlocked it. We stepped inside, the air shifting to that familiar must of pages and polish. The confrontation peaked in private now, shelves closing around us like confidants, the weight of the evening pressing us toward whatever broke next. Her eyes met mine in the dim hall, holding longer, the subtle pull demanding we face it head-on. The library's back room felt smaller now, the door clicking shut behind us, sealing out the night's chill. Shelves lined the walls, books stacked like silent judges, their spines worn from hands that had turned pages seeking escape. Evelyn flipped on a low lamp, the light pooling yellow on the wooden table between us, casting shadows that danced like unresolved doubts. I paced a step, then stopped, my hands clenching at my sides. The air hung heavy, scented with aged paper and the faint trace of her lavender soap, pulling me back to decisions I couldn't undo. "Evelyn, let me make this right," I said, voice steady but urgent. I reached into my bag, pulling out my wallet, fingers fumbling with the leather. "Take this. Compensation for the silence. It's not much now, but it could help. Books for the library, whatever you need." I slid a thick envelope across the table, the paper crinkling softly. "And I promise, once the tour's over, we'll talk. Future contact, real time together. No more hiding from you." The offer hung there. My attempt to convince her. To buy the peace my career demanded. Words laced with the hope she'd see the gesture as care. She stared at the envelope, her fingers hovering but not touching, brown eyes narrowing in the lamplight. The pushback came swift, her hand sweeping it back toward me with a firm push. "No, Lila, I don't want your money. Bribes won't stitch up what you tore." Her voice rose just a notch, edged with the steel I'd always known, rejecting the ease I offered. "Mutual acceptance, that's what this needs. Not erasure for your spotlight, not promises that vanish like you did." She stood straighter, arms crossing over her chest, the fabric of her sweater pulling tight. Insistence burned in her gaze, demanding I face the cost of my choices, not dodge them with cash or delayed vows. The rejection stung, hot in my throat, her words stripping the illusion that I could fix this with anything but truth. She wouldn't bend, her quiet life a testament to holding on to what mattered, while mine crumbled under pretense. The argument heated then, words spilling faster, the air thickening between us. "You think it's that simple?" I shot back, voice cracking as old wounds reopened, raw and bleeding. "I left to survive, Evelyn. This town would have crushed us. Whispers, stares, no way out. And now, with the book selling, the interviews, I can't throw it away for memories." My hands gestured wide, knocking a stack of papers, the flutter echoing like accusations. She stepped closer, face inches from mine, breath warm and sharp. "Memories? That's all you call it? You left me piecing together fragments, nights alone, wondering if you'd ever come back. And for what? A life of pretending you're someone else?" Her eyes flashed, hurt twisting her features, the abandonment she'd carried for years surfacing like silt stirred from the creek bed. I fired back, voice rising. "Pretending kept me alive. You stayed, safe in your books, but I had to fight for every word, every deal. Don't act like your pain's the only one." The failed reconciliation burned, heat rising in my cheeks, old scars ripping open, her tears the night I drove away, my own guilt in empty city nights. We circled the table, voices overlapping, the library's hush amplifying each barb, wounds from 2 decades ago festering fresh. She stopped, breathing hard, and I saw it then, the envelope forgotten, her hand trembling as she braced against the shelf. In the heat, a revelation broke through. I pulled a folder from my bag, the hidden manuscript I'd carried like a secret heart. "Read this," I said, sliding it toward her, pages yellowed at the edges. "It's unfinished, but it's us. The real story. The one I couldn't publish. Our summers, the creek, the way your hand felt in mine under the stars. True feelings, Evelyn, not the polished lies I sell." The words poured out, my voice softening as she flipped the first page, her eyes scanning the ink. Descriptions of her laugh like river gravel, the press of our bodies in hidden spots, love raw and unfiltered. It revealed everything. The queer awakening that shaped me, the regret woven into every line, feelings I'd buried but couldn't kill. Her fingers traced the text, the paper crinkling under her touch. And for a moment, the argument hung suspended, the manuscript a bridge over the chasm we'd widened. Tears welled then, tracking slow down her cheeks, glistening in the lamplight. Mine followed, hot and unbidden, the sensory turn hitting like a wave, salt on my lips, the rough weave of my sleeve as I wiped my face. Books stood witness around us, their pages absorbing the raw emotion, the air thick with the thud of our hearts and the faint creak of settling wood. Her sob broke soft, a hand reaching across the table, fingers brushing mine, calloused from years of shelving. The touch grounded us, tears mingling unspoken apologies, the emotion raw against the quiet stacks. Vulnerability cracked us open, her quiet strength meeting my hidden words, the pain easing just enough to breathe. A partial success formed in the hush, truth settling fragile as frost. She nodded, closing the manuscript with care. "I won't say anything. For now." Her voice steadied, but doubts lingered in her eyes, the envelope untouched, promises hanging thin. We sat then, the lamp's glow softening edges, words sparse but present, a shared silence patching the immediate tear. Forgiveness hovered, not full, but enough to pause the storm. Her hand stayed near mine, the warmth a tentative link, as the truce held against the night's pull. Outside, darkness deepened, windows black with the weight of stars hidden by clouds. The clock ticked past midnight, leading us toward the climactic decision, the air shifting cooler, pressing us to choose what came next in the unfolding dawn. The library's clock struck 2, its chime low and insistent, pulling me from the fragile truce. Evelyn gathered the manuscript, her fingers lingering on the cover, eyes distant in the lamp's glow. Doubt still shadowed her face, but the air felt thicker now, charged with the night's unrelenting pull. We sat in silence, the wooden chair creaking under my weight, until footsteps echoed from the front, sharp, purposeful against the quiet floors. My heart thudded hard, a jolt through my ribs. The door to the back room swung open without a knock, and there she was, a reporter from the city paper, notepad in hand, her heels clicking like accusations. "Lila Harlan? I'm Dana Reese. Heard you're signing here. Thought I'd catch a word on your hometown roots." Her smile was polished, eyes scanning the room, landing on Evelyn with a flicker of curiosity. The external threat crashed in, sniffing for the story I'd buried, her presence unraveling the hush like gravel under tires. Evelyn stiffened beside me. Her hand was drawing from the table's edge. Dana stepped closer, pen poised, the scent of her citrus perfume cutting through the musty air. Willow Creek must feel like a time capsule after all those years away. Any old friends inspiring the books? Secrets from the past? The questions probed, casual but pointed, her gaze shifting between us, sensing the tension like a hound on a scent. I forced a laugh, light and practiced, but my pulse hammered, sweat prickling my palms. "Just good memories," I replied, voice steady despite the storm inside. Evelyn's silence stretched, her choice looming. Protect my facade or expose the truth for her own healing? I could see it in her tightened jaw, the way her fingers dug into her sweater, weighing the years of hurt against the plea in my eyes. The reporter's arrival amplified it all, external pressure forcing her hand, the decision a knife's edge between loyalty and release. She rose slowly, crossing to the window, her back to us, shoulders rigid against the glass. Dana pressed on, oblivious. "Heard whispers about your high school days. Close circle, right? Anyone special shaping that first novel?" The words hung, baiting the hook. Evelyn turned then, her eyes meeting mine, resolve hardening like frost on the creek. The internal crisis peaked in her, the choice tearing at her quiet strength. Protect the woman who'd left her broken, or speak for the healing she'd denied herself too long. "Lila's roots run deep here," she said finally, voice even but laced with something sharper. "Deeper than most know." My breath caught, desperation surging as the confrontation ignited. I stood, chair scraping loud in the hush. "Evelyn, don't!" The clash erupted, my voice raw, clashing against her unyielding stance. "This isn't just about me, it's our lives, the scrutiny that'll follow." She faced me fully, inches away, breath warm and steady. "Your life, Lila. Mine's been exposed here every day. Queer in a town that whispers. You ask silence, but I need voice. For healing. For us." The argument boiled, words tumbling hot and fast, the reporter's eyes widening as she scribbled notes. "You think hiding fixes it?" Evelyn pressed, her voice rising, resolve a wall I couldn't breach. "I carried the shame alone, pretending our love was nothing to survive. But it's not shame, it's strength." Desperation clawed at me, hands gesturing wide, knocking a book to the floor with a thud that echoed my fracturing calm. "Strength? It'll destroy everything. The deals, the tours, gone. And you? Back to whispers, but worse, tied to my ruin." The peak raged, our voices overlapping in the small space, her resolve unbreaking, my pleas fracturing into shouts. Dana hovered, phone now out, recording the chaos, the external threat feeding on our unraveling. Evelyn's eyes flashed, hurt and fire. "Ruin? You ruined us when you left. This, us, is the truth you fear. Face it, or lose more than fame." In the heat, the turning revelation broke through, her words slicing clear. "Our queer identity isn't the weakness you hide. It's the strength that built you." She stepped closer, voice dropping to a fierce whisper, the air between us electric. "Those summers, our touches in the dark, they weren't shame. They were awakening. Resilience against a world that denies us. Hiding it erases that power, Lila. We share it, woman-loving woman, surviving despite the grit." The words landed like sunlight piercing clouds, shifting everything. I froze, her gaze holding mine, the shared truth no longer a burden, but a fire. Queer as strength, not the secret I'd weaponized against myself. The revelation washed over me, warm and unyielding, her resolve pulling me from desperation's edge. Dana's pen scratched faster, but the world narrowed to Evelyn's face, the lines of her journey mirroring mine. hidden hearts beating defiant. The chaos swirled, reporters' questions firing like sparks. Is this personal? Old flames? But emotional release built. Physical now. Urgent. I reached for her, hands trembling, pulling her into an embrace amid the storm. Her body tensed, then yielded, arms wrapping tight around me, the press of her against my chest affirming it all. Our past's validity surged in that hold, her cheek warm on my shoulder, breath hitching as tears soaked my collar. The sensory flood hit, the thud of her heart against mine, calloused fingers digging into my back, the faint lavender of her skin grounding the whirlwind. Chaos raged around us, Dana's voice probing, footsteps retreating as Evelyn murmured, "It's real. We were real." The embrace released it, emotional dam breaking, sobs mingling in the tight space, affirming the love we'd buried, valid and enduring despite the years. Stakes resolved in the quiet after, her head lifting, eyes clear. "We'll face it together," she said, voice steady, defying the erasure I'd begged for. "No more hiding. Tell your truth. Or let me help you." I nodded, the decision solidifying, warmth spreading from her touch. The reporter backed away, muttering about off the record, but the threat paled against our choice. Truth over silence. Queer strength over shame. Hands linked firm, we stood, the embrace lingering. Past affirmed in the present's grip. Morning light faded in through the windows, gray at first, then golden, acceptance unfolding slow as the dawn warmed the shelves. The night released us, transitioning toward quiet reflection, wounds easing in the emerging sun. Sunlight crept through the library windows, soft at first, painting the shelves in pale gold. We'd collapsed into chairs sometime before dawn, the reporter's footsteps long faded down the hall. Evelyn's head rested on my shoulder, her breathing steady now, the chaos of the night settling like silt after a flood. I stared at the floor, the scattered papers from my manuscript catching the light, words I'd hidden, now exposed in the quiet. Wounds mended slow here, in this aftermath. My chest ached from the shouting, her eyes still red-rimmed, but the raw edges softened. The air warmed gradually, carrying the faint scent of dew from outside, mixing with the dry paper smell that grounded us. I shifted, my arm around her, feeling the rise and fall of her ribs. And for the first time in years, the silence felt full, not empty. Reflection came in waves, the desperation I'd clung to, the erasure I'd demanded, all crumbling under her resolve. My fingers traced the seam of her sweater, calluses from her work rough against the wool, a reminder of the life she'd built without me. The dawn light eased the hurt, mending what words couldn't, pulling us toward something steadier. She stirred, lifting her head, brown eyes meeting mine in the growing light. "We survived that," she murmured, voice husky from the night's strain. Mutual growth unfolded then, tentative but real. I nodded, the commitment forming in my gut, solid as the oak roots outside. No more hiding, Evelyn. Authenticity. It's what I've been chasing in stories, but not living. I'll tell them. About us, about the queer heart of it all. The words felt heavy, freeing, my voice gaining strength as I spoke. Tours might end, deals shift, but the weight lifted, fame's isolation cracking open. She watched me, her grudge releasing like breath held too long, years of resentment easing from her shoulders, the lines around her mouth softening. "I held on to the anger to feel close to you," she admitted, hand finding mine across the table, fingers interlacing with a firmness that surprised me. "But letting go, it makes room." Her empathy wrapped around us, shared struggles validating the path ahead. Queer women navigating worlds that demanded silence, now choosing voice together. The growth mirrored in her touch, warm and unyielding. My thumb brushing her knuckle, the skin there soft from turning pages. We sat like that, wounds mending further, the library's hush a balm. dawn light strengthening as commitments took root. The sun climbed higher, warming the air, and future glimpses emerged in quiet talk. After the tour, I said, squeezing her hand, I'll come back. Properly. No sneaking, no pleas for silence. Plans sketched loose but promising. Open connection beyond the secrecy that had bound us. Weekends here, her showing me the library's hidden corners anew, me bringing drafts of the real story, the one with our names woven in. We'll visit the city, she added, eyes lighting with a spark I hadn't seen. Your world, but on our terms. No masks. The vision stretched. Walks by the creek in daylight, hands linked without fear. Dinners where we spoke of queer resilience openly, no whispers. Laughter bubbled then, soft, as she described teaching me to garden again. Dirt under nails, the simplicity I'd lost in spotlights. And books, I promised, dedicated to you, the endurance of what we built. The glimpse felt tangible, beyond the night's break, our lives intertwining without the old shadows. Her smile widened, grudge fully released. The future, a bridge we crossed hand in hand, plans solidifying in the warming room. Emotional payoff settled deep, validation washing over us like the sun's full rise. Our love's endurance hit me then, 20 years apart yet here, hearts thudding in sync, queer and unbroken. We made it through the hiding, I whispered, tears pricking again, but warm now. That resilience, it's ours. She leaned in, forehead to mine, breath mingling in the close space. Love like this doesn't fade. It waits. The payoff layered, her quiet strength affirming my hidden fears, our shared identity no longer a secret's weight, but a source of power. Women loving women, surviving small-town grit and city glare, the endurance a quiet triumph. I felt it in her nearness, the way her free hand cupped my cheek, thumb tracing my jaw, tender, real. Validation pulsed between us, queer hearts resilient against erasure, the night's crisis forging something unbreakable. The library held us, shelves witnesses to the payoff, emotions raw but healed. Sunlight poured stronger now, warming the wooden shelves, the air shifting from cool dawn to gentle heat. Dust motes swirled lazy in the beams, catching gold as her hand linked firmly with mine, palms pressing, fingers weaving tight, the calluses a map of her days grounding my wandering ones. The sensory closure wrapped us, wood creaking soft under the warmth, pages rustling faint in the breeze from the cracked window, her skin against mine a steady anchor. Lavender lingered on her, mixed with the sun-baked paper scent, pulling me present. No more distance, just this. Hands linked, firm and sure. The world outside, fading. Final beats lingered in shared silence, full of promise. We rose slow, bodies close. The quiet humming with unspoken vows. Her eyes held mine, deep and steady. The promise electric in the air. Tomorrow's light, our truths unfolding together. The library door swung shut behind us, a soft click sealing the past's weight, while ahead stretched the open road to morning shared. No more shadows, just us, hands linked under sunlight. Evelyn's fingers squeezed mine one last time, her warmth a promise against the dawn chill, our steps sinking toward whatever truth we'd claimed together. The creek babbled nearby, free and unhidden, mirroring the current we'd finally let flow. If this pull of hidden truths resonates, subscribe for more stories of authentic connection. Tell me below, have you guarded a secret that shaped you?